Northwestern students marched to raise awareness about sexual violence on college campuses.
TEDx Northwestern speakers share stories of going against the grain.
And students react after Northwestern announces a 3.6% increase in tuition.
We'll have those stories and more coming up on the Northwestern News Report.
It's your news right now.
Good evening, I'm Matt Dunn.
And I'm Michelle Beck. Thanks for joining us. On the same day Bill Cosby was convicted on 3 accounts of aggravated indecent assault, Northwestern students raised their own voices against sexual assault. NNN's Joey Safchik was there.
How I dress does not mean yes!
Chants like this were heard on Sheridan Road Thursday evening as members of the Northwestern community participated in Take Back the Night's March and Speak Out. Dozens of students, faculty, and community members gathered at the Rock with posters to show their support. Asha Sawhney, the former director of SHAPE, or Sexual Health and Assault Peer Educators, spoke at the event.
I think there's a lot of rah-rah energy sometimes, but that is really fleeting and short-lived. And I kind of want people to think about really difficult things and over a long period of time, because I think that is what's going to create sustainable action.
Northwestern Take Back the Night is an annual week of programming that raises awareness about sexual assault on campus and supports survivors. Students marched down Sheridan Road and through campus, concluding at the Student Center. Members of student groups including Greek Life and College Feminists took part. The Center for Awareness, Response, and Education, or CARE, co-sponsored some of the week's programming and was present at the march.
It's about empowerment. The general spirit is about, I have strength and I'm going to use it, and it's almost like, yes, take it back, like community even, right? We can do a lot with one voice, but we can do so much more with all these voices together.
And community leaders hope that the conversation continues long after the marchers leave the Student Center. They told me that they hope this night will help inspire and sustain dialogues for future generations of Wildcats.
For me, I'm kind of at a transition period where I'm moving into the real world, so I really wanted to try to speak to the broader community here about what it means to think about these issues, both here and beyond.
Sawhney said that she does not necessarily want this event to be remembered as a protest. She hopes it can inspire reflection about what sexual assault means on Northwestern's campus. Joey Safchik, Northwestern News Network.
Well, Take Back the Night 2018 is over. The Northwestern CARE, Center for Awareness, Response, and Education, and SHAPE say they are always available to students and survivors with programming and services year-round.
Well, what is the key to success in the world today? The TEDx Northwestern team thinks it's the courage to challenge the norm. NNN's Hyo Jung Kim tells us more about the ideas and the people who went against the grain.
This is happening in our world.
A platform of sharing ideas worth spreading, the annual TEDx Northwestern Conference took place at Northwestern University Ryan Center on Saturday. The executive director of the conference, Ryan McHenry, says he is proud to host the 8 speakers, each of them sharing their unique stories.
All of them have done something unique in their career and their life that was not the status quo. They made some decisions that put them in grounds that maybe were not the most comfortable path, but they had the courage to make a decision, to go against the grain, as we say.
And along with sharing all these stories, the conference also poses questions to the audience. This first question being, what is your grain, and how would you go against it?
Against the grain is sort of, how can we do things differently?
It can be translated in a lot of different ways, and I think it really does boil down to us for just people that were willing to step out against the status quo, challenge the standard narrative, and drive their own path.
McHenry and his team think the theme is especially timely, posing food for thought for both the Northwestern community and the world as a whole.
As we are in such an interesting time in not only where the United States stands, but also where the Northwestern community stands, I think there's more and more value to be put on people that are willing to take a stand for something they believe in.
The speakers touched on topics ranging from fashion and education to law and technology, and they hope the audience to bring the ideas home.
This is kind of an excellent opportunity, like I said, for both the speakers and audience members to kind of share their thoughts, their ideas, and it's kind of that platform which can help us to get where we want to be in the future.
The most important thing that I can say is to really use the power of your voice in your leadership in any way that you can. It's a privilege, really, to be able to use your voice.
By initiating conversations against the grain, the team hopes to have helped the Northwestern community and the world as a whole set a step forward and better. Hyo-jung Kim, Northwestern News Network.
More information on the speakers and their topics can be found on TEDxNorthwesternU.com.
Northwestern announced last week that tuition will increase by almost 4% next year. NNN's Andy Weir talked to administration officials to figure out why.
Northwestern sophomore Lydia Hartman isn't happy about another tuition increase this year.
That is really exclusionary and bad. I'm like a student on financial aid, so that stresses me out as part of my financial package.
Tuition for Northwestern University will increase to $54,120, up from $52,239. That's a 3.6% increase from last year. But university spokesman Bob Rowley says the increase is a necessary evil.
The tuition goes up when the costs of a college education go up. And right now, tuition costs don't cover the cost of a college education. When the costs go up in the real world for all the things we do here, tuition rises to meet that.
But it's not just Northwestern that's seen a tuition increase this year. The cost of attending college in the U.S. has been steadily increasing for decades, leading many to ask if higher education is getting too expensive.
We're doing everything we can to ensure that people who get into Northwestern, from whatever socioeconomic background they come from, can afford to get here.
Those efforts have included increasing financial aid, capping student loans, and a need-based admissions approach. But college counselor Keith Hebert still worries that the middle class may be squeezed out from higher education nationwide.
For schools like Northwestern and the schools that provide 100% financial need, the lowest income families are getting all the money they need to go to these schools. And then the upper class families already have the money to pay for these schools. Who's getting squeezed out is the middle class families.
In 1980, the average annual tuition at a private university in the U.S. was just under $10,000. By 2015, that number had almost tripled.
The sticker shock that students are getting these days, with private schools in particular, I think is swaying students away from applying to certain schools. I think a student that doesn't really have the information or have somebody to go to get the right information would see that and instantly think, this is a school I shouldn't apply to. It's far too expensive, I can never afford it, not knowing about the financial aid options that the highest schools have.
Andy Weir, Northwestern News Report.
Coming up, Northwestern is not alone in hiking up its tuition. We'll explore why students across the country are facing soaring tuition prices. That's next in Money Minute.
Book busy.
At Northwestern, we're wildcats in every way.
Go Northwestern, break right through that. With our colors flying, we will cheer you all to go. Go you Northwestern, fight for the sweet victory, for the fame of our fair name, and go Northwestern, win that game. Go Cats!
At Northwestern University, we are pioneering innovation and achieving excellence across every imaginable discipline. At Northwestern University, the possibilities are endless.
college tuition and fees charged by public and private universities rose on average between 2.9 and 3.6% this year. Meanwhile, inflation has leveled off at about 2%. Let's take a look at some of the totals. The average cost of tuition and fees for this school year was about $35,000 for private schools, about $22,000 for out-of-state students at public schools, and $9,500 for in-state students. Students today are paying a lot more than their parents did. If we compare 2018 graduates with 1988 graduates, we find that students at public schools today pay 213% more than their parents did. That number is 129% for private school students. So why are college costs rising so rapidly? Let's follow the money. It turns out there is no single answer to this question. However, higher education policy analysts say most of the tuition hikes at public and private schools coincided with the Great Recession. We know that state spending on public colleges and universities remained at historic lows since 2008, and legislators continue to debate about school funding. Other experts say the rising costs of healthcare and other benefits that colleges have to pay out to their employees are to blame. Whatever the cause, rising costs are hitting students hard. Approximately 40% of students turn down their first choice school because of financial concerns. Meanwhile, we do have some companies like McDonald's who are trying to lend a helping hand. Earlier this month, the fast food giant announced its plans to triple college tuition assistance for its employees. With Money Minute, I'm Matt Dunn.
Students living on campus next year selected their housing assignments this week. NNN's Alexa McHale talked to some students who found problems with the process.
With the 2-year on-campus living requirement starting for current first years, many students say they struggled getting housing with their friends or even getting housing at all.
I know in a lot of my emails I kind of ignored some of the questions I asked.
Incoming sophomores like Janik, who had applied in groups, say they ended up with extremely limited options.
My plan A, B, and C didn't work out because everything filled up so quickly.
Roger Becks, the Director of Administrative Services for Northwestern, says he understands the students' concerns regarding the complexities of when to register and the availability of dorms.
But it's challenging sometimes to understand all the parts and pieces because it is complicated.
Students lower on the priority list said that the lack of communication from residential services regarding their personal situations became frustrating.
I remember incessantly emailing and calling them, all my friends were doing this the whole week, just trying to figure out what's available to us.
However, Beck says he spoke with many students all week trying to explain to them their process.
The selection of spaces is a little bit tighter. Students can't always get what they want.
Beck says residential services instituted a new 50-50 split, where freshmen and upperclassmen would split the bed spaces in the majority of the residential halls and communities, leading to fewer spaces for rising sophomores in spaces like the newly renovated 560 Lincoln.
We have older students that can help younger students understand what it means to live on campus.
Still, returning students say their experiences weren't taken into account.
Residential services sort of didn't consider that we are students with lives and where we live is going to affect our experience of the school and to a certain extent our mental health.
While there are enough spaces for everyone, Beck says, many returning students are out of luck and remain split from their friends. Alexa McHale, Northwestern News Report.
Residential Services told us they have no plan to alter their 2-year live-on requirement.
If you're a student who likes to stay up late at night, you may have more to worry about than missing your morning class. NNN's Sian Shin tells us why.
A new study co-authored by Northwestern's Feinberg School of Medicine says night owls have a 10% higher risk of dying than early birds. Since its publication, the study has been gaining major attention in the media due to the gravity of its implications.
If you make a list of important health outcomes, death is going to top that list. And so it's a very serious outcome. And being a night owl is something people can readily understand and either identify with or know someone who is a night owl.
Kristen Knutson, the co-lead author of this study, is also an associate professor of neurology at Feinberg. Knutson says the study is especially important for college students.
Being a night owl or an evening type is much more common at younger ages, like in college. It actually peaks in our teenage years.
Activities of the college lifestyle, such as late-night studying and being on the computer, keep students awake. And Northwestern students can attest that this night owl behavior can take a toll on their mood and health.
It's like very difficult for me to like focus on things, and then I'm just kind of in a bad mood, and I just like am like wrong, like yeah, I'm in a bad mood, like very crabby. Like if people try to talk to me, I'm like I like bite their heads off.
Knutson says Northwestern can provide information and support to help this problem.
All these little ways to sort of educate people in healthier behaviors as they pertain to timing of sleep and timing of other behaviors is a great first step.
Although days will get longer this spring, night owls may want to make their nights longer as well. Sian Shin, Northwestern News Report.
Knutson says the next steps in this research should be trying to understand why exactly night owls are at the increased risk for death and disease, and what we can do to mitigate these health risks.
And we wanted to know if you get enough sleep, so we asked you in this week's edition of Rock Talk.
I'm Jessica Vitti from NNN, and this week's edition of Rock Talk, we want to know about Northwestern students' sleeping habits. How much sleep do you usually get per night?
I'd say I usually get around 8 hours or so. I try to go to sleep at 12.
Go to sleep at 2 a.m., usually wake up around like 9.
I get like 5 hours of sleep or 2 hours of sleep.
Usually around like 4 or 5 on a good day.
I do like my sleeping habits. I think they're very important for your health. Concentration, I don't drink caffeine.
I would love to not go to bed at 2.
I wish I slept like 8 hours a night, but like I feel like that's not realistic here.
Naps, usually 30 minutes to an hour. Nothing more than that, because then your REM cycles get messed up, as you know.
Good long naps, because I'm exhausted.
That does it for this week's edition of Rock Talk. I'm Jessica Vitti from NNN.
If you have an idea for a future Rock Talk, tweet at us at NNN_news.
And up next, a summit hosted by and for women is spicing up the culinary scene.
At Northwestern, we're wildcats in every way.
Go Northwestern, break right through that. With our colors flying, we will cheer you all the go. Go you Northwestern, fight for victory, sweet victory, for the fame of our fair name, and go Northwestern, win that game. Go Cats!
Sugar and spice and everything nice, or so the nursery rhyme goes. But Northwestern senior Lauren Goldstein has a different idea of what this phrase means. NNN's Mano Blackman got a taste at this year's Sugar and Spice Summit.
About 175 people attended the second annual Sugar and Spice Summit at the Savage Smith in Chicago Saturday. Senior Lauren Goldstein created the summit last year as a way to connect female students with young professionals in the food industry. The all-day event included panels with women chefs, food writers, food critics, and social media personalities, and of course, lots of food. While the summit was once exclusively for Spoon Magazine and the Northwestern community, Goldstein opened this year's event to the entire Chicago area.
The first thing that I really wanted to do was work with a professional venue and to move the event downtown, both to make it more accessible to young professionals, so people who had graduated from school and were living in downtown Chicago, but also to students from other schools in the Chicago area.
The event featured 17 speakers, including Cherry Bomb Magazine co-founder and editorial director Carrie Diamond, director of culinary arts at the Center on Halsted Nicole Peterson, and co-founder of 11th Orchard Bitters Janie Vitlana.
When I was in college, nobody talked about having a career in food. I mean, things have changed so much over the past few decades, and it's really interesting to see that that is sort of a viable career path now.
The panels addressed issues like the Me Too movement, starting your own business, making your content stand out on social media, and activism in the food industry.
It's really valuable just to see that, isn't like Wonder Woman, right? These aren't some kind of esoteric women. These are women who could be you and me and everybody else, and they have the opportunity to learn and grow from that.
Goldstein was thrilled with this year's event, and she says she aspires for even more.
The dream would be to do multiple events in multiple cities throughout the year, have it be sort of on tour, but always do events in Chicago because this is where it was born. This is where I have a community of people who are so excited and have really empowered me to create this event.
Mano Blackman, Northwestern News Network.
Food has a special place in our hearts, which makes it difficult when the food that we're looking for isn't available at our fingertips. This week, I talked to some students who try to find this food outside of Evanston. Ramen is simple to make, but it has all the salty, spicy, and even stinky flavors that characterize Korean food. For Barnabas Kim, those flavors are reminders of home.
Whenever we were kids, I always ask my mom for like ramen.
A typical Korean's fridge will include staples like kimchi, red chili paste, and fermented bean paste. Bet you can't find items like these in your local grocery store. That's why Evanston residents like Kim have to drive all the way to Niles to get their groceries.
All right, let's go.
Kim knows how to make the most of the 30-minute journey.
Every time before I go on like a H Mart run or something, I'll just ask all my friends to fill up my car. Just because like everyone always wants to go to H Mart.
Kim's most convenient option is just a block away from his apartment, Whole Foods. But shoppers can't find a wide enough selection of Asian food here.
Whole Foods doesn't have a lot of side dishes like pickled radish that is pretty common to have in Korean culture.
Consumers may say they want more, but they're not speaking up to the right people. Catherine Cardenas, the manager of D&D Finer Foods, says she needs her shoppers to tell her how to widen the options at her store.
If no one tells us like, oh, you guys should really carry, this line of rice or this type of sauce or whatever, we're not going to bring it in just because we have no clue about it.
Despite the drawbacks of travel, Kim points out something to be happy about.
I feel like it's almost like a cultural thing, if you know what I'm saying, going to H Mart, like going with my friends, and it's like everyone there is Korean. It kind of feels like we're with our people.
Most people don't go grocery shopping for the cultural connection. But next time you go, it's something to check out. From Evanston, Michelle Beck, Northwestern News Report.
Is the warm weather of spring finally here to stay? I'm Sian Shin, and stay tuned to find out in your 5-day weather forecast.
She's so cute.
At Northwestern, we're wildcats in every way.
Go Northwestern, break right through that. With our colors flying, we will cheer you all to go. Go you Northwestern, fight for victory, sweet victory, spread for the fame of our fair name, and go Northwestern, win that game. Go Cats!
At Northwestern University, we are pioneering innovation and achieving excellence across every imaginable discipline. At Northwestern University, the possibilities are endless.
Welcome back. Let's take a look at your 5-day weather forecast to see if we'll have more beautiful days like today this week. The sunshine we've been enjoying will continue on Wednesday with the high of 76 and a low of 61. There is a chance of shower, but let's hope that the sun will make up most of the day. Have your umbrellas ready because Thursday will be a rainy day, but the temperature will still be warm with a high of 69 and a low of 54. Although the rain will be gone, clouds will be partly covering the sunshine on Friday, with a high of 69 and a low of 50. And just in time for the weekend, the sun will come back shining on Saturday, with a high of 60 and a low of 44. The sun will stick around on Sunday with a high of 57 and a low of 46. It looks like we'll be ending the week on a bright note. I'm Cian Shin, and this has been your 5-day weather forecast. Back to you.
Thanks, Cian. June may seem far away, but as we head into May with the weather warming up, it's already time to get excited about Dillo Day. Dillo Day wristbands are now available online through the university's box office. Each student can pick up their free wristband in Norris at the end of May and can purchase one guest wristband for $10. Last week, Mayfest Productions announced that Grammy-nominated R&B artist Daniel Caesar will be performing this year. This was the first performer announcement for this year's event, and the rest of the lineup will be revealed in the coming weeks.
And coming up, we'll tell you more about the 87th annual WAMU show.
And some new video content coming to NNN. Stay tuned.
At Northwestern, we're Wildcats in every way.
Okay, so you bring
I think
us
you're
back.
on. I think you're.
Northwestern break right through that. With our colors flying, we will cheer you all to go. Go you Northwestern, fight for victory, sweet victory, spread for the fame of our fair name, and go Northwestern, win that game. Go Cats!
At Northwestern University, we are pioneering innovation and achieving excellence across every imaginable discipline. At Northwestern University, the possibilities are endless.
Welcome back. Joey Safchik joins us now to talk about this year's WAMU show.
That's right, Michelle. The 87th annual WAMU show, The Manhattan Miracle, tells the story of the first ever musical produced in the United States. Another first for the WAMU show, on May 12th, they will offer an open captioning performance. I sat down with two of the show's head writers, Jordan Nitzer and Alex Rothfield, ahead of opening weekend. We talked about the show and their experience being a part of this Northwestern theater tradition.
There are so many things you have to do to write a musical, and I did not know that. And I've just learned to love that process so much and appreciate it a lot more over the past year because of how hard it is. And I also just, this organization is incredible, and the ability that it brings everyone together and so many people contribute to the show is just awesome.
And Joey, we hear this interview was for a new part of the Northwestern News Network. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, absolutely, Matt. So this interview was for Catnip, which is a new branch of NNN that will be producing video content that is entertainment and variety based. You might see some segments on the show, but most of them are going to go directly online. You can follow us on social media, on Twitter and Instagram at catnip_NNN. You can go to facebook.com/catnipNNN to watch my full interview with Alex and Jordan. And in honor of WAMU, we played a Finish the Musical theater lyric game with students this week. You can also watch that full video on our Facebook page. Go check it out to get your fix now.
Yeah, we definitely will. Thanks, Joey. And that's all we have for tonight on the Northwestern News Report. I'm Michelle Beck.
I'm Joey Safchik for Catnip.
And I'm Matt Stunn. Thank you for joining us.
It's good. Very good.
We did it.